Alright, hello, it's your boy James, wanting to do a fresh reaction to the movie called Tar. I guess it was fresh released. I have no idea who made it. I didn't pay that much attention to the credits. The shortest, or the most important impression was that it was one of the most boring movies I've seen in my life, at least in the first half. And it seemed, I guess, by the second half that things got a little more interesting, but still not really fast enough to satisfy me for the most part. They tend to do a lot of things without explanation. That can be a good thing. But the monologuing and the dialoguing in this movie, especially with the protagonist, Lydia Tarr, it's kind of overly ornate. It's overly complex. There are too many references to things that, the general audience would not be familiar with. The protagonist is a conductor of an orchestra, and so the movie is supposed to give us some type of intro view into the life of conductors and of people who work in orchestras, people who play in orchestras. I think that's very relevant. I'd like to take a girl to an orchestra sometime. That seems like a classy date. But nevertheless, it's quite unfortunate. I do think the concept of the movie could have been executed better. There's kind of maybe a lack of stimulation as a thing. It's it's not inherently bad to be unstimulating, but they really lean heavy on dialogue, like a lot of dialogue and slow shots. The cinematography, the shot placement is kind of uncreative, like the angles they're using. Sometimes I'm impressed. Sometimes I feel like the cinematography is intentional. To me, the main contrast to be like a show like Sopranos. In The Sopranos, I feel like the shot placement is very intentional. And speaking of which, I do think on the moral lesson of the movie, something that I've been noticing in general is you can choose the path of wisdom, or you can choose to not follow the path of wisdom, and then there are many alternatives to the path of wisdom. In this case, the protagonist chose lust and dishonesty and backbiting as her vices. And then basically it's a moral tragedy. The movie is a moral tragedy of watching the moral failings of the character unfold from her heights. And I feel like it's kind of a window into the life of wealthy people, of a wealthy person, of a wealthy famous person. So for a lot of people that's not going to be very relatable, and that's okay. It's okay to give the audience a portrait into the raw experience of a wealthy person. But I guess when I was seeing this movie, it was like I could not relate a lot to this mindset of the protagonist and of many of the characters in this movie. So I guess intuitively, star rating, it would be like 3 out of 10 overall. I feel like they were, they had some creativity with the imagery, but then they probably should have just pushed harder with that. Like, there's just too much bland imagery, too much slow pacing. They probably could have made better use. They probably could have made some use of the montage technique. I mean, it's not inherently wrong. Montages can make things a bit trivialized, but that's fine. But the opposite problem that they encountered was too much dialogue, just slowness, too many references to things that the audience can't really know much about. I would say this movie would be most compatible with people who are already familiar with orchestra music or classical music and past composers and conductors and things like that. It doesn't feel, it's not the best introduction for people who are not familiar with these things. Okay, so I guess that's all I have to say for now. Alright, talk to you later. Bye.